Afternoon, once again, we are back to speak about governance of the internet for the youth in the Caribbean. As we announced before the past, we shall continue with panel number 3, women's empowerment in ICTs. We have learned something. Caribbean is having today technologies, but we also need diversity, inclusion, and women leadership. We have young people. We have Gabrielle Johnson. Round of applause. Howard, she's vice president of the network of the technology of information youth in the Caribbean. We have also an associated of digital information from Trinidad and Tobago. We have the representative of Guyana. We also have the Director General of Informatics and Electronics, John Clubs, as well as Empowered Women Representative, and also the Director of Institutional Development in ETECSA. It's a panel with a lot of representatives.
Y las mujeres empoderadas de Texas.
ETECSA and Telecommunications and Communications of the Caribbean. Where are they? Raise your hands. Okay, let us enjoy this moment.
And welcome to panel 3, Women Empowerment in ICTs. So today, this conversation will spotlight the critical role of women in shaping the future of ICTs across the Caribbean. We'll hear from these wonderful ladies here and online, and we will hear from these wonderful ladies here who are not only making an impact in their own countries, but also championing the inclusion and inspiring the next generation of ICT leaders. Right? So our discussion will bring together both local and global perspectives and explore practical strategies for empowering women to lead in the digital ecosystem. So I want to get the ball rolling since you're a bit strapped for time. So my first question will be for Ms. Analaisy. So in the Cuban telecommunications sector, women's representation in leadership roles is an important marker for progress. Could you share with us how many women currently hold key positions at the national telecommunications operator, and what steps are being taken to strengthen gender balance and women's advancement in such a critical company?
Okay.
Over to you.
Gracias, thank you. Buenas tardes para...
Good afternoon, to all participants. Of course, as we have said before, my name is Analaisy. I'm an engineer. I'm from the young women's group in this event. I'm an engineer in telecommunications. I graduated in the year 2008. I have two sons. And I work in the telecommunications enterprise in Cuba. I have some positions in that company, and I'm working in communications area at this point. This is an enterprise I have kept for years, a policy of inclusion and equity and rights to education for women, and we have been able to play a good role in this organization. I'm the first Cuban who is making some remarks in this panel and shall speak about Cuban context. In our country, we have a program for the advancement or for the progress of women approved by a presidential decree in the year 2021 and focused in 7 main pillars for the empowerment, economic empowerment, education, health, sexual and reproduction topics for women, as well access to information. Some important information is that Cuba has same opportunities for men and women, for boys and girls in primary and elementary education, in pre-university education and high education. We have more participation of women compared to the participation of men in pre-university and university education. And those in higher education, in technical careers, in technical studies, we know that up to the year 2023, the report we have shows that 27% of women were in technical careers. So we shall be talking about a specific situation, the situation in our company, in our enterprise. 75% of workers in telecommunications company are women. More than 8,500 women, and 74% of this total, this amount are in technical positions, let's say programmers, specialists on telematics. 74% of them are dealing with some of these disciplines, and they are, of course, the natural origin or source for leaders to be in the organization. In the medium and high positions of the company, women have a very important participation in different departments, in provincial divisions, in technical areas, in business areas, and that includes some responsibilities of head of technical units. And in key positions in our company, we have women today who are leading the traffic and optimization of the telecommunication network traffic in Cuba, and a woman leading that department studied with me in university. We have, of course, well, the Center for Data Services. That woman who is in charge of that department, that division, is 26 years old. And in the department where we have the development of platforms and operations of the network is also a woman heading that department. And we have Department of Innovation, let's say, the person leading that division, that group, that department related to innovation matters in the company is a 27 years old woman. And one way or another, this is the way the positions are in the company. So in the main positions of the enterprise, we also have women in important positions. The main positions of the executive division made up of a CEO of the company, and the main responsibility of first vice presidents and operation presidents and vice president, commercial operation, 71% of them are women. And for us, it's a reason to be very much proud, because it's an interesting figure. It's an important amount of women in these high positions in the company. A person I know, she graduated in the Polytechnical Institute, in the Polytechnical University. She started working in the enterprise in our company, and very quickly she was promoted to be the chief of a telephone center or calls center, and then she started leading everything related to the metropolitan network. I mean, I'm talking about the network what used to be the capital of Cuba, and then she was promoted to higher responsibilities, getting to lead the structure of ETECSA, which is the telecommunications company in Cuba. And then, because of the results she had in her place of work, she had some other positions, and now she is the Minister of Telecommunications in Cuba. I sometimes talk to my colleagues, and I say that from communications, we made some assessment dealing with trade brands and analysis, and we sometimes wonder, how do you see this company if we analyze the enterprise? And they say, people answer, the enterprise per se is a woman. We see that as a woman. That speaks about the importance of women in our enterprise in ETECSA. So to strengthen all the gender balance and to keep all the achievements we have a special health system or project in the enterprise, and we have anti-stress programs. We have as well, these applied specifically for women. We have as well some projects to deal with women after COVID-19 moments. Now we also have the creation of casitas infantiles, which mean children little houses, which are similar to daycare centers. It's an interesting project, the one we are having in different provinces, and that is precisely for the sons and daughters of women and men working in our enterprise. That's the way we give services and take care of our children, and we also take children from the community. We also have health problems prevention. We have participation of women from our enterprise in the Orange Day. That is a day, the 25th of every month, in which we promote protection to women, the non-discrimination of women in our country. And from the viewpoint of communication, which is indeed the core of our participation, and my job is crucial to meet the main tasks given to achieve an impact and sustainable impact of the result we have achieved. We are able to change cultural views, showing real women who are having these positions. And from the communication point, we usually exchange about the lifestyle of cybersecurity specialists, all of them women, of directors and heads of divisions, and all that, showing that after behind a woman who has these high responsibilities, we have a mother, we have a daughter, we have a woman that have all responsibilities, and one way or another, we would like everyone to know what is happening with these women, who these women are, who these talented women are in enterprises. So we feel that they feel that their contribution is highly valued, which is so much important for the working places, for the work, the job context. And it's important to have women, in these positions, because it is also attractive for those women to have these positions in the enterprises they work in. We women like to be accepted. We women like to have our contributions accepted and valued. And we like to be an inspiration for coming generations, of course. And everything we publish in the television, the information we give to the population, it's important because young girls are also seen on TV, on the spots on TV, all this information about young women who have important positions, leading positions in our companies, and that is, of course, of interest for girls to have technical careers. And we are also changing the internal policy of our institutions, and we are also a contact with the external world. That is a way to link what we are doing domestically with the country policy, which is seen in the whole country. This is what I wanted to share. I don't know if I have any question. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much for those insights. And it's so encouraging to see how representation at senior levels is being addressed within such a major institution. And because I'm a firm believer that, having women in decision-making roles not only shapes company culture, but also helps set the tone for the wider ICT ecosystem. So thank you so much, Analaisy. So I'll be going on to my second panelist who's online, Ms. Jael Goddard. So Jael, you recently completed the ITU Now Empowering Women Leaders Mentorship Program. Could you tell us a bit about the program, how it was structured, who your mentor was, and what the experience was like for you? What did you gain from the mentorship? And how did you think programs like this can benefit other young women in the Caribbean who aspire to be leaders in ICT? Over to you.
So as Gabrielle mentioned, I would have had the pleasure to participate in the ITU's mentorship program. My mentor was Dr. Caroline Wamala Larson from Eswatini, and she resides in Sweden. So something that the previous panelists would have also spoken to is not just representation or connectivity of women, but the meaningful representation. So yes, we know women are getting these jobs, but what about the leadership positions, the technical and so forth? And so what stood out to me the most in my experience was that this mentorship program, the way in how it was structured and the support that I received, it was meaningful mentorship. Because many of my peers who also participated, they would have experienced it in a different way than I would. But my mentor, she went beyond the 30 minutes full sessions that the program would have required. And I got 2 sessions a month, an hour long. And even after we went through all of the topics, we still meet. I would be meeting with her next week. And so from the very beginning, she said, I want to pay it. I want to pay it back. I was a recipient of mentorship. I had women who would have poured into me. And now being in this position of leadership, I have a responsibility to do the same. And so she was very generous with her time, very generous with her knowledge, and sharing that unique female perspective in such a way that it created a safe space. It allowed me to identify myself in this space. I remember we had a session and she said, "You're a young woman in STEM. Like, you have so much to contribute. There's other young girls who they can't imagine themselves being in a career like this. They don't have access to even the knowledge that these type of jobs exist." And after our session, I sat down and I was like, I am a young woman in STEM. And it's not something that I would have phrased that way or considered, because being on the more international relations policy side, it's always like, oh, I'm not a technical person. But in these conversations with her, I was able to not only feel empowered, but also understand my identity and the role that I also have as a young woman to also inspire the upcoming generation, to let them know these things exist and women who look just like them, just from the Caribbean and from these same spaces exist. And so I think the program was just such an empowering one, because it really not only allowed me to develop that personal capacity, but also understand how I can impact the lives of others. And so that's the next step. And it definitely does speak to the sustainability of it. And I would say, like, I know this isn't exactly the question, but just to add as well, being in these spaces and having persons like my manager, Mrs. Shellyan Clark Hines, you are coming face to face with these women who, in real time, are changing the perceived dynamic and understanding these preconceived notions of what it means and who these women are that are in leadership in the ICT landscape, and understanding that there is space for you. And very much so, the women that are in these positions, they are championing you to also join them. Thank you, Larry. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Jael. And I could certainly echo some of those experiences, because I too was a part of the mentorship program and I had a very similar experience to Jael. So I think it's pretty clear that mentorship programs like the ITU now can be a real game changer for emerging leaders like ourselves, especially when they provide both the skills, training, and a really safe space to build our confidence. So Jael, I thank you for that. So I'll now move on to Miss Jennifer Boodoo, who is online. So Jennifer, from your work within the Guyanese government, what kinds of programs or initiatives do you think are most needed to strengthen the leadership capacity of young women in ICT and telecommunications? And importantly, how can these programs also reach and empower young women in indigenous communities where connectivity and access can be more challenging? Over to you.
Thank you so much for asking that question, and thank you so much to the folks over at CTU for having me. Can you guys hear me? If you can give me a thumbs up if you can. My heart is clear. Great. So, such a great question, such an interesting question. And I must say, I love the fact that I always see women in technology. I might sound a bit biased here, but usually in my background for communications and outreach within the Office of the Prime Minister in Guyana, I would usually tell the girls that we would have conversations with sensitization or awareness programs and even training. And I'm going to quote a singer here. I usually say, "Who run the world? Girls." And that's what I usually want to start off with. So before we touch on what I would like to see, I'd also like to share my experience. Like I mentioned, my background is communications, but as a communications professional within the ICT sector, I've been to the basically top of the map and even to the bottom of the map of Guyana, and I've seen what the government of Guyana is doing, but I also know that there are ways that we can strengthen the capacity of young women as leaders in the ICT space, particularly those from our indigenous communities. So before I can touch on what should be done, I think I like to reflect on what is being done from the government of Guyana's perspective and also from the perspective of a staff or someone from the public service sector. So over the 5 years, let's touch on the 5 years specifically. Over the 5 years, Guyana has taken a meaningful step and a meaningful ways to expand ICT access. And when I say that, we're seeing policy plans dealing with ICT in education, and also there is the ICT master plan that is being drafted as we speak. These plans now outline efforts to increase digital literacy within the schools and also training capacities to teachers as well. There's also the government of Guyana, what they did, they introduced the Guyana Online Academy of Learning, and that is completely free for persons who fit the criteria. They apply and they have access to free tertiary education apart from our national university, which is the University of Guyana. So once you fit the criteria, you can apply and become a scholarship student. In that way, when you give free education to overseas-based universities, it opens the door for thousands of Guyanese men and also women. And many of them are young women like myself who took the opportunity to expand our knowledge and also to pursue online degrees and also for professional training. But while I touch on the young professionals, I'm also going to take a step back. We're also working with persons who have limited knowledge in coding and programming, where is the 1000 Coders Initiative. That's also another program of the government of Guyana, which is free, where persons are learning how to code and program at their own pace, but they're working with professionals. We also have the coding school that we're working with young people. Apart from training, there are also ICT hubs, and we're going to touch on those ICT hubs that are located within the hinterland areas, and that is done through the ICT access and e-services for hinterland, poor, and remote communities. Whereas we have a location where persons can come, and given Guyana's terrain, far-flung communities can come and have access to free government Wi-Fi, and not only free government Wi-Fi, but also have access to computers that they can teach themselves as coding programs. They can join on to their gold scholarship training programs. They can also do research. Whatever they want to do is access there for them. So those are just ways that young people could create a foundation. And that's ways that how the government is creating a foundation for young people to build their digital skills. Apart from training, we also go into the fields of sensitization and awareness. I believe it's important for young people to see people that look like us and relate to persons. And this is where the Industry and Innovation Unit, the department that I'm attached with, that falls within the Office of the Prime Minister, deals with young people and also deals with the novice and also deals with persons who have the experience. So we have ways in which we can showcase our technological skills and also people can relate to us. For example, there is the Technology Concept Sprint, a new program that we introduced this year where we went out to regions that are a bit remote, We didn't focus on the capital city of Georgetown, the capital city of Guyana, rather. We focus on regions that we know persons feel or do not feel as if they're seen. And we give them the opportunity to create a concept and where technology could tackle a community problem. And from there, they work with mentors, and those mentors help them to craft their production or their prototype, and helping them to see that, hey, I can make a start. And that's what we want to do for young people. And that's what we see it's so important. Apart from the concept sprints, we also had our annual hackathon. And the great part about the hackathon, we see persons who are novice and see persons who are so experienced that they have the opportunity to create a working prototype within the 72 hours. Just last year, we had a team led by a female that won. And I think that was fantastic to see that. We're seeing more women join on to these competitions. I can make mention that we also have teams that are only women. And these are teachers, these are trainers, these are persons with a passion for coding coming to participate. Some have the exposure, some have no exposure, but they want to learn to code. They want to create something. So they're working with persons with the experience to create something that is great. And those are just a few things that we're doing to make sure that women feel seen and women are targeted, and to showcase that women do have the power in Guyana to create that change, given that we sometimes see technology or the ICT sector as a male-dominated field. And if I may add, in my department, the Industry and Innovation Unit, I am the only female within the department, apart from our officers who are in different regions. So I work in a male-dominated field, and I have to make sure that my part is being made. But apart from all these programs that we are doing, I have noticed there is always going to be gaps. There is always going to be some way of improving those gaps. So from my aspect, I'm speaking from my professional experience, access alone is not enough. While we give persons access to free Wi-Fi, government Wi-Fi, we're giving persons access to computers, we're sharing that space of persons to train other people, because we also do free training in intermediate, advanced, and also basic. We know, or we also notice from my capacity, that while many young people are learning digital skills, fewer are being prepared to take on leadership roles in ITT. And that was just one of the highlights in the past presentation. So I know that these things do happen. We are aware of it, because lack of limited connectivity, cultural expectations, these are things that we have to fight on a day-to-day basis. And like I mentioned, we want to see more women within this field. And sometimes we might not see women dominating, so we cannot relate to what is happening. And if we are to truly see young people stepping into these leadership roles, I believe we can go beyond training. We can go doing mentorship, networking opportunity. And this cannot be a one-stop shop. It has to be continuous, and it also has to be applied in a real world context. The conversation cannot end today. It has to be continuous, and also the persons who are participating in the conversation and the mentorship, they must have the passion to continue learning. So when I think about recommendations and moving forward, from my aspect, or from my position within the field, given my background is not technology, but communications, real world solutions should be applied. I could think about mentorship and leadership, networking. It's so important, not just having a 2-hour function and having some persons in a room and discussing what should be done, and then that's the end of it. I believe if we could target, and not only in a context of Guyana, but also regionally, pairing young women with ICT professionals and leaders, both locally, like I mentioned, locally and internationally, to guide their career paths. Well, and speaking from a perspective of Guyana, there is the scholarships and there are the programs offering free tertiary education. If we could have targeted scholarship for those persons that driven for persons within the indigenous communities, there's just one aspect we can better connectivity. And also with the question that you asked, I can read it out there, supporting young indigenous women, and that's so important that we do. Also, moving forward, tech incubators are important. While we know that creating a safe space for persons within the technology realm, it has to be done. We can connect via Zoom, but sometimes we just need that in-person connection. So I believe like helping persons in that space where it is developed startups, accessing funds in the digital economy, and also allowing persons to have community-based ICT labs. Basically, apart from the ICT hubs, we also have these ICT labs that are designed and making sure that learning is practical and also cultural relevant. Well, English is our national language, and sometimes the Creole is what we speak in Guyana. With the indigenous communities, sometimes there is the dialect that is appropriate and variant. So it would be great if we could incorporate the indigenous dialect with what we're learning in the modern world and put these two together. So I believe that being culturally inclusive is important. So if we can include ICT training, local languages, partnering with community leaders, which is what we do sometimes, but more needs to be done from my aspect or from my personal view as well, and also trying to work with persons continuously. I know time is of the essence, but in closing, I do believe that Guyana is moving in the right direction. And I've seen the government of Guyana is combining, and I've seen it, that we're combining government's investments with targeted mentorship. We're seeing inclusive scholarships being done throughout the country as well. And hopefully we can work towards like culturally grounded ICT initiatives within these indigenous communities can prepare our young women, and especially our indigenous young women, towards the path to technology or ICT. And it's not just a stop. We don't want them to not only participate in digital economy, but we want them to lead it. Like I said, women run the world. We do so with our jobs. We do so with family. We do so being the backbone of community. And I think this is just one way we can continue to do so, because technology can connect us, but it can also make us a bit distant. And there's just one way we can close that gap and making everyone feel seen. So I believe that when young women, including those from the indigenous communities, step into leadership roles in ICT, the entire nation, the entire region can definitely benefit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that really informative response. I'm really impressed by what Guyana has done and is currently doing. And I think that's such a critical point about bridging the connectivity gap for the indigenous communities. And I believe that it's not just about access to the internet, but about access to opportunities and leadership pathways, that could really change the lives of the youth. So thank you so much for that response. So I go on to Maidelys. So the Youth Computer and Electronics Club has been a strong example of how community-led institutions can foster digital literacy. What role does your organization play in building leadership skills among young Cuban women in the digital space? And can you tell us about some of these specific programs or success stories that you've seen? Over to you.
Sí, ahorita. Bueno, primero quisiera hablar en... Sorry. Primero quisiera dar una breve introducción de...
I would like to say what are these youth clubs on informatics and electronics in Cuba and the importance of these clubs for our country. These clubs are a network of technological centers. There are more than 600 distributed all over Cuba that were founded by our Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro Cruz in September 1987. So, next September, we are going to celebrate our 38th anniversary, in which we have been working very hard to develop technological skills in our children, adolescents, young people, adults, disabled people as well, because if we are going to talk about these centers, and if we are going to talk about digital transformation, we have to mention inclusion. And these clubs have a key role in the digital literacy and in the development of the leadership of our young people, young women. From the virtual and physical scenarios, we provide access to technologies, but also we create safe environments in which young people can participate and they can explore, learn. We have different projects where our young women participate. In 2023, with the bancarization process carried out in our country, we had the digital literacy campaign. This campaign was aimed at being with the clients and the citizens in this digital transformation that was taking place in our country. And we have provided these services for more than 1 million Cubans in the development of skills, digital skills in the Cuban population, and this is also provides a better quality of life. Our young women are involved in science, technology, and innovation projects, so they are not only promoting ICTs, but they also carry out actions because this is the most important part, that they are part of this development and they have very good results. The results we wanted to achieve with this transformation digital process. Also, young people take part in AI projects and workshops. Actually, we have a female young person that she wants to resolve problems from the community level, but also she tries to solve the problems through providing solutions to the public policies of our country. For example, there is a young female person that is working in a project based on AI. So she, in that project, she's the leader of that project. Also, we have a very important space. Here in Cuba, we pay very much attention to it, and we celebrate Children's Day in TICS. So this day is very important for us because we not only work on training, but also professional training of our young female people. So this is important, and our Minister of Communications is working very hard that she never misses these days. Also, this is important to say that the Cybersecurity Day in the last 10 days of November, the young female leaders are the ones who foster a culture on cybersecurity, not only for young women, but also for the whole population. So we promote the empowerment of women in areas that traditionally are dominated by men. So I'm part of the team in which all the members are women, so sometimes I'm scared. And this team, this work team, is in charge of helping, boosting ICTs and how we can use
some elements, and also how we can carry out the digital transformation in our country. And 40% of all these teams are women in relation to the higher positions. So 62% of all these positions are held by women. So this figure has been increasing throughout the years. We have a gender-based focus. We started in 2023 as part of a scientific event that we develop in our country. We created the first gender team in which our female children took part in this, and also young women who were the leaders of this team.
Nuestra ministra participó también, es decir, que ella también.
Our minister also was involved in this project. She has an active role in this. When we developed this event for the first time,
Todo lo que nuestras mujeres son capaces.
so something wonderful happened. Yes.
También a los niños hay que.
But also we have to provide these opportunities for children because they have to learn that women have the same rights
Los hombres y
and everything that women wants to go in their lives, they are able to do it. Our young women not only get technical skills, but also they develop leadership skills, critical thinking, and social commitment. And this is very important. In this sense, these clubs are a strategic platform to boost talent, creativity, and the voices of young Cuban women as active actors in a more inclusive, digital, and safe digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Maidelys. I'm really happy to hear that the JCCE is doing so much for women. And, I think that community is a catalyst for digital leadership. And it's really a reminder that when young women gain digital skills in supportive local environments, they can go on to lead on, national and even international stages. So thank you so much for what you're doing. So last but not least, I would like to pose this question to Miss Suany. I got it right? Good, great. So we've heard about participation, but leadership and innovation are also critical. How can technical communities and professional unions like the Cuban Computer Scientists Union go beyond just including women in their membership to actively positioning them as leaders and innovators? And I also understand that the UIC has been working on establishing gender laboratories related to AI and innovation projects. So could you explain how this initiative works and how it promotes women's participation in technology, innovation, and governance in Cuba? Over to you. Buenas tardes a todos.
Hello everyone, thank you. My name is Suany Leyva, and I represent the Cuban network of women entrepreneurs that was invited by the Union of IT experts in Cuba. This is the reason behind the question that was asked of me. Partnerships are indispensable in order to meet the targets of women's empowerment in the digital and other economic areas. In this case, we are talking about empowering women financially particularly in the private sector ventures. Therefore, these are women who do not have digital competences or have very little competences, and therefore they are afraid of starting up, because they are wives and mothers and caretakers, and they also have the need or desire to open up, a business, with or without knowledge or support. In Cuba, there are a number of public policies, and my predecessors have spoken about the visible and tangible results from there. So we can see, results in our communities. So the partnership with nationwide institutions is critical, because our network is a project that has presence in 8 provinces here, and it has 800 members, but it is very young. And in order for it to operate and meet its objectives, it must partner with other government institutions and NGOs that can, because we are supported by UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women, and so that all of the communities that have so many distinct features and necessities, there's a specific example. For example, there is a project in the province of Las Tunas in order to empower, rural women in digital competence. Rural women have fewer opportunities in Cuba. There are still communities in which, there are high rates of digital illiteracy, and so women are lagging behind, because they are bred, because they bring home where because they are household leaders, and therefore that we need to bring all of the representatives of other institutions in order to enrich processes and have a feedback environment and maximize, resources for delivery to women and communities, because the power that is vested in a woman is then it spills over into the community. All of the skills that a woman, all of the skills that are available, who can be best transmitted of them than women, that can carry them to the community. So a number of projects are being executed that involve, partnerships, between these entities. That is this project of a Cuban network of women entrepreneurs and Union of IT experts in Cuba. And based on the results, we will be spreading out these projects, and UNICEF as well as a Hoven Group have been working in the teaching digital skills all over the country, and that they're also relying on AI on these efforts. So we are also using UNICEF leaders, and we are establishing new communities in the provinces in which we don't have a formal group, so that everyone, so that we can have visibility and access, and so the network and all of the beneficiaries of the communities can start to learn how to read and write digitally, and then go beyond and go to the rural areas and maximize resources so as to get better results for their businesses and their households and all, our country. And the second question was associated with the gender laboratory, which is being implemented by UNICEF. And this is critical too, because its approach goes to, it's about providing knowledge about digital knowledge and AI knowledge, with ethical approach, but it also includes digital governance, that is to use all of this knowledge for the purpose of society and make sure that these new children that we are training, who are looking at us, because in some aspects, we have, there's more visibility. There are many women who are leadership in positions, but they have little visibility because we are making decisions, and we find a lot of women in leadership positions, but the girls don't hear about them, and they hear about other leaders. They don't see that in the private sector. There's a wrong road to travel there. So these gender laboratories, help visualize and establish connections, and it is very important that we network among all of the sectors because interdisciplinary groups, are the root, are on the basis or the foundation of the system that we want to maximize and develop. So the first question was associated with the policies. So there are many decision makers who are women. There are many VPs and many leadership positions, like in many other institutions. Many organizations are being led by women, and that is who are women and these are women who are caretakers and mothers and housewives and may have other personal aspirations beyond their careers. However, they are decent examples of leaders, but they are not. They do not receive this visibility. So our girls need to see that beyond these spectacular women in history, like Marie Curie, that do not have enough visibility in Cuba. There are many women in the history of Cuba that have contributed to the different processes here, literacy campaigns, and any processes that include ICTs. We are not just talking about the women's leadership, in ICTs, but there are women are present in every area. Therefore, whatever skills that we develop, we'll make sure that we'll live a better life, because technology is an ally. Sometimes we're afraid of it. Sometimes we don't know use it properly, but technologies are an ally. The more we become aware of it, the better our results will be in the short, medium, and long terms. Muchas gracias.
So the concept of a gender laboratory in tech innovation is pretty fascinating. And it's really encouraging to see really structured efforts to really integrate women's perspectives right at the heart of like AI and emerging technology development. So thank you so much for that, right? Okay, so we are at the end of the panel, and unfortunately we can't take any questions. So feel free to ask your questions. If you see the panelists walk by, feel free to go to them. So thank you to all the panelists in person and online for your insights, and to the audience for joining us in this important conversation. It's clear that while progress has been made, there's a lot of work we have to do, and from strengthening mentorship to reaching underserved communities to ensuring women are not just present, but leading and shaping the digital space. So let's continue to collaborate, innovate, and ensure that women's voices are heard and valued at every single table. I thank you.
Para la foto, por favor, a nuestro fotógrafo que se acerque con nosotros para que...
We need a photographer to come here. By the look of many of the participants here, I see that they are excited. I live in a world that is led by women. And while I was sitting there, I have learned a lot, not only from the gender laboratory, but all of the things you're doing to change the world through initiatives and partnerships anywhere, not only in Cuba, but also the Caribbean and the world. So let us put our hands together for all of the women who are braving up for them. Hey, this I can. I have no limits. Thank you wholeheartedly. Thank you.